July of 2010, my life changed drastically for many reasons. I was in emotional turmoil, coming out of a 10-year marriage. My mother was diagnosed with cancer, and my car completely stopped working. The head gasket blew, and it was not worth fixing for the price of parts and labor. I suddenly found myself a single mom to 3 kids at the age of 31. I never expected my husband to cheat. It completely blindsided me. So I packed myself up, not wanting to be selfish and make the kids come stay in my parents' small basement guest suite. I let them stay in their comfortable rooms, and my husband and I made a temporary visitation schedule. I was able to find a house to rent in less than 2 weeks. It wasn't anything special, but it was big enough for myself and the boys, and within budget. During the move-in process, we noticed that things kept going missing and resurfacing in places that we didn't leave them. For instance, I set the key to the U-Haul right on the kitchen counter next to my car keys. When I went to get them so I could move it for the night, the keys were gone. We searched everywhere, and my oldest son found them on top of the TV stand in the living room. I chalked it up to having 3 boys. They loved playing pranks on each other, so I honestly thought they were pranking me. Boy, was I wrong. I wanted to make our first night in the new place as fun as possible to make sure the boys felt like it was home and that the change wasn't all bad. I ordered 2 large pizzas and their favorite strawberry soda. We played board games until the food arrived about 30 minutes later. The boys were allowed a cup of soda with their dinner, and I poured them each about half a red Solo cup, setting it down at their designated places on the table. Now remember, new house, same rules. Behave like civilized people at the table. Don't spill the soda all over, please, I said, sitting down with them to eat. I was talking to my middle son, who was telling me all about the book he was reading, when out of the corner of my eye, I saw a red cup flying off the table. Boys, what did I just say? Please go grab some paper towel and wipes to clean that up before it stains anything, I said, slightly irritated since I literally just finished telling them to be careful. Mom, it wasn't us. The cup moved by itself, my youngest Mark said, eyes wide. Okay, well, since cups apparently fly on their own, maybe we shouldn't have soda with dinner anymore, I teased. Being a boy mom, I was fully aware that boys especially always had the best storytelling skills. I wasn't one to overreact. It was spilled soda, no one was injured, and no one broke a major rule, so I laughed it off with them. Now, I feel bad looking back that I didn't believe my son. I instantly blew it off as him embellishing the story so he didn't get in trouble. After dinner, we washed up and cleaned up our dinner mess as a team, just like always. This is weird without Dad's silly cleanup song, my youngest son said. I like it. That cleanup song is for babies, my oldest said. All right, cut the banter and let's go watch a movie, I replied. Halfway through the movie, my youngest was asleep, which wasn't uncommon on movie nights. I glanced over and my middle child was about to be asleep, my oldest still wide awake and seemingly into the movie. I was thinking how lucky I was to have them, lost in thought, when the lights and TV in the living room shut off. What the heck? Said David, my oldest son. I don't know, maybe a blown fuse? The other lights are still on, I'll go check. The fuse box was in the hot water heater closet in the hallway, which thankfully I had found when doing a final walkthrough before moving in. I opened the fuse box and everything was turned to on, and I noticed the living room and kitchen were together on the same fuse anyway. So if it was blown, the kitchen wouldn't still be lit, I said out loud. Mom, it's back on, David yelled from the living room. When I got back to the living room, my middle son was all the way asleep, so I took him and the youngest to their bunk beds and tucked my oldest into his bed. I grabbed a glass of wine, found the remote, and put on something that didn't feature animated superheroes. It turns out I couldn't stay awake either, because the next thing I knew, I was being shaken awake by my youngest son. Mommy, there's a guy in my room," he said. He'd never been one to have nightmares, but with the recent changes to his routine, and it being the first night in a new place, I wasn't surprised. "I'll come check your room. You want to come with me?" I asked, figuring I'd check under his bed and in the closet to make him feel better. I checked all over, showing him no one was there, and laid in bed with him. But I was completely exhausted and fell asleep next to him. I'm glad I did, because he was traumatized enough from what happened next. I can't imagine if he was alone going through it. I woke up from what I believe was instinct now. Looking around the room, I gasped without meaning to, when I saw a man sitting in my son's art desk chair, right next to his side of the bed, watching him sleep. Unfortunately, my son woke up and saw him before I could do anything. He screamed and I grabbed him up, rushing for my room, which had a lock on it. I told my youngest to get the other kids and head to my room and lock it. "Don't open the door until I tell you it's safe," I whispered. He nodded his head, eyes open wide, and ran. I expected the man to be standing up and on his way out to do whatever he had come to do. But he was still sitting in the chair, staring at the bed. "Hey," I yelled. "What are you doing here? What do you want?" But he didn't answer. Instead, he stood up and walked out of the room, through the bedroom wall, not through the door. My poor kids probably thought I was injured, because I was so scared I couldn't move or talk. I just stared at the spot the man just walked through, stunned. I didn't have a new vehicle yet, so I couldn't take the kids and leave. I had no choice but to stay there that night. Luckily, my best friend was obsessed with all things true crime and paranormal, so the next day she helped me find someone to cleanse the house. They say people are more susceptible to paranormal experiences when they're going through a lot, and from the sounds of it, you're dealing with a lot more than anyone should have to at once. I'm glad there were no injuries. Thanks for sharing your story, and I hope your son's okay emotionally now. If you have a paranormal story to share, email it to the address in the description below. Please like the video and subscribe. It helps us get seen. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.